The median household income for the United States is $80,440. The average income for an individual, this is the average, is $34,987. Flight attendants can make this much money. Flight attendants actually make more than this, and we actually work less. We work less than the average person, and we can make more than the average person. Let me talk about this concept right now, because that's kind of like, for real? For real. So we'll just talk about my first full year being a flight attendant, which is actually 2022, but I started in 2019. So this first year, I worked for a major airline, and I brought in $62,882 as an individual, a little bit under 20,000 or 20,000 less than the average household. And this is me being at the third tier of the flight attendant pay scale, basically at the bottom, and working, let's say, above average for a flight attendant. So with this year, actually $6,806 was non-taxable, so there was no tax taken out of a good portion of this pay. So that's like a pretty good perk right there. So this full year, I had 192 days of off, and some of these days off I was actually making money even though I wasn't working. So this looks like me actually only working 3.6 days a week, where the average person actually works 5 days a week, not including vacation or sick leave or whatever. So we are working almost 2 days less than the average person and making a pretty decent income. And that's pretty crazy. Like, I'm working less and making a decent amount of money, and we'll see how it's actually going to increase to be over that median.
So this is how much a flight attendant at the top of the pay scale with an average cents would make a year. So it is over that 81,000 or whatever the median household income. It is actually 82,387, and this is actually just working minimum hours. As a flight attendant, you have the ability to drop hours, so not work, and pick up hours and work more. So it's very flexible. You can make as much money as you want, but this is just basic. Just flying 76 hours, being away from base, our per diem 200 hours away from base, making $480, $86. Flight pay is going to be $5,327 for flight pay. So total monthly is going to be $5,813 per month at the top of the pay scale with an average cents. And we look at this, it's going to be $76,000 with the two big income sources, but we do have other income sources.
So basically 192 days of off, not working, but 11 of those days I was kind of on standby and didn't get used, but I was basically sitting around the airport, and I could do anything I wanted just within the airport parameters, but I was getting a full pay for not really doing anything. We can say a normal person, not including vacation, works 260 days a year. I worked 173 days last year, so that is 33.5% less than the normal work week, and we still brought in this figure, so that is kind of fun information to look at. Of me working this 173 days last year, I was actually away totally from home, not coming back at home, sleeping at a hotel for 94 days. So that is 54% of the time of me working, I'm away from home, not coming back. So that is a part of being a flight attendant, that you're away from home. You can be home every night if that's something you're interested in. You can do one-day trips. As a beginner, that might be unrealistic to do all one-day trips to come home, because senior people like to do that, but it is possible to be home every night. And these one-day trips, sometimes they're the most moneymaker. They're called high-value turns. You can get the most productive trips, the most amount of hours in for credit hours. So you can fly 9 hours, only be away from like 12 or 13 hours. but there's also trips where you can be gone. You're only flying for 6 hours, but you're away for 12 hours. So these high value turns actually kind of make the most money. When you do come back and do 1 day trips, I believe the per diem is taxable. But when you don't come back and you're laying over and whatnot, I believe that is when the per diem is not taxable. Some of these days off include kind of being on call at home and still getting paid, or some extra money that was given to make your monthly minimum requirements or added hours for specific things. So looking at the numbers, I had 155.75 free hours. So these are hours of full hourly rate, but I'm not actually working. So that is a sizable amount that could represent 2 months or so of minimum schedule. So basically, throughout the year, I accumulate these hours of free money, not actually working and getting a full pay. We can say the normal person has 8 days off per month, basically Saturday and Sunday. Looking at all my months, the most time I didn't spend working was 22 days out of the month, which is almost a full month. Um, Maybe I was sick, maybe I used personal time, maybe I had vacation, but that is the most sizable month. That month, there was actually 4 days of maybe being on call or something that was kind of work related, but I didn't work at all. But 22 days is the most. And the least for me was basically 9 days of not working, 9 days off, which is 1 day more than the average person.
In the Reddit page for flight attendants, they compiled information for a lot of the companies for people looking to get into the industry. So we're going to look at some of the numbers. We're going to look at the big four starting pay. Highest with Delta, $33.81 per flight hour, and the highest starting pay, or the top out pay, is $76 per flight hour after 12 years. Number two, it looks like American, but I believe Southwest does things different. Like, they don't work a full hour to get their full pay. It might be like 50 minutes or 40 minutes. So they have some rig, and they have like the best 401k match, which is 9.3%, which is really good. And we also can get 35 days off with Delta as far as paid vacation after 18 years, which is great. And there's profit sharing as well, but looks like Delta has kind of the highest pay system, and they do have boarding pay as well. But we'll look at the average for all of them, what actual money might look at. You can be in charge, make more money, fly international, make more money, speak another language, make more money. If planes are holding, they'll pay you a little bit. Sales on board, and then there's a boarding pay with Delta, but not all airlines. Other pay maybe it's like shared rewards, training, or whatnot. And we're doing a conservative 2% profit sharing because the different companies are all over the place. So it's basically almost $6,000 of other stuff. And we can look at the best case scenario. This is the average making $82,000 working the bare minimum. We're going to change it to 97 hours flying. That's what I flew last year. And I was away from base 235 hours. If you're at the top of the pay scale, you would make over $100,000. From your top two earning flight pay and per diem, you make $95K. Your profit sharing, a conservative 2%, will be almost $2,000. And basically your extra pay altogether is over $6,000. So you'd be making $100K working less hours. So me flying 97 hours, that's what it was when I was actually only working 3.6 days per year, per month, per week. 3.6 days per week. Let's look at the best case scenario. Delta pays $76 an hour. Their per diem is 2.85 now, and they get boarding pay, and it's depending on what your pay scale is, it's half your hourly rate for the boarding, and boarding is like 40 minutes. Let's do a conservative extra $4,000. I've heard that the highest person in Delta's made $15,000 just from boarding pay. So we'll do a conservative $4,000. It'll probably be more. So you're making over 113 $100,000, $113,000. And if you spoke a language or you did more lead, more international, this can go up and up. So this is my flying at the top of the pay scale. And if you want to fly high time, let's consider high time over 100 hours or so. Let's say 110 hours, which is doable, and still having time off, a good amount of time off. That's going to bring you up to $125,000 per year. I've heard people flying 150 hours. That's 162,000. I've heard of a guy working 200 hours per month, which is ridiculous, and I don't recommend it. That means he's going to be away from base a little bit more. So we'll say 300 hours to be conservative. Dude's making over $200,000. That is crazy. I kind of want some work-life balance, even though that's a good amount of money. I don't want to fly that much. So now let's look at the average person. Let's say you've worked 6 years, so you're probably going to be making $46 an hour. And then we're going to change that per diem to be a little bit lower, because if I was making $46 an hour flying my 97 hours like I did, I would have been making over 72K. And now let's look at if I was flying high time in the middle, let's say 110, being away from base 270 hours, you'd be making over 81K, which is that medium household income. So this is what that looks like, being a flight attendant, working less days, making over the median income. And who would have thought you could work only 3.6 days and make $100,000 at 81K, whatever it may be, depending on how many hours you want to work. But flight attendants can make more money than you, less money than you, working less days, making a good income. If that person's working 200 hours, I don't know how they do it. I don't want to work 200 hours. In the middle, you'd be making around 132K. If you're at Delta, you would get boarding pay to increase that a little bit. We're still just going to do a conservative 4,000. This is what flight attendants could potentially do, working less days and having potentially 35 days off with paid vacation at the very top, or you can have 14 days off or 7 days off paid vacation, and a nice 401k match, whether it be 9.3% or with United 5%, Delta 9%.